Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everybody, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the webinar on modern education benefits. Excited to be with you guys today. We'll give everybody maybe one more minute or so to come on in. We've got a good number of folks who have RSVP'd in here already, so we'll give it just maybe a minute or so, and we'll begin.
If you guys are experiencing any sound issues from Yavi or myself, you can use the chat or the Q&A function in here to let us know if it's something adjustment we need to make, or if there's an issue maybe on your end that we can figure out before we formally get started.
Awesome.
You sound good to me here, Yavi.
Sounds good. And just, a little, before we get started, just a little bit of context on, as Jason and I were preparing for this webinar, we were thinking through, hey, how do we want this to go? How do we want to engage? We want this to be as conversational as possible with all the attendees. So if there is a specific topic, or if there's a specific comment or example or anything like that that we use, and you want to learn more about, or you want to comment in or chime in on something maybe that you guys have done in the past that has worked, feel free to interact. This is it's an open floor. We've got Andrew behind the scenes checking for comments, and we'll just get started here in a second.
And Andrew, one quick question as well. Are you recording this? Is this something that can be shared asynchronously afterwards?
Absolutely. It started recording at the very beginning, and we'll edit the video, get it posted, get it out to everybody that's attending today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to Modern Education Benefits that Drive Retention and Impact. My name is Jovica Djurdjević. I am the head of sales here at SavvyFi. Feel like I've lived multiple lives throughout my career. A little background on me: I've been a financial advisor. I've been an employee benefits consultant. I've worked in SaaS. I've covered the gamut of when it comes to anything education / finance / SaaS solution related in the benefit space. And today, we're going to focus primarily on bringing you as much information as possible so that you can be competitive in the marketplace, whether you're in the recruiting and talent acquisition space, whether you're in the internal HR role or total comp or whatever it may be. We're going to cover everything from some of the basics such as tuition reimbursement to some tax advantaged student loan strategies, 529 strategies, retirement, etc. Jason, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Some of you may recognize my name or my face from past practice match, either webinars or conferences, or as the founder of Doctors Without Quarters some over 10 years ago now. For a long time, I worked with medical schools and teaching hospitals to teach student loan best practices. And in 2021, I pivoted from the sort of retail side, if you will, to get into employee benefits as I saw a need for, I was being contacted by employers, some of you in some cases, to help to understand the PSLF program and how it can be levered in recruiting and retention. And I joined forces with SavvyFi just late last year because, as Yavi mentioned, we offer a bundle of benefits that are taking advantage of newer legislation in the marketplace that represent an opportunity for you to do some next-gen benefits, or at least understand them in a competitive marketplace.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that intro, Jason. So we'll go ahead and get started in the presentation. Again, if you have any questions or if anything comes up that you want us to dive into, feel free to interact and ask questions. So let's take a step back and really talk about why some of these next-gen benefits are so incredibly important in the marketplace today. So as we particularly look at the healthcare industry, your average med school student is leaving med school with $200,000 in debt. To put that into a little bit of context, your average home in the United States is $400,000 right now. So before they've even made a dollar, they are half a home in debt. And as someone who used to be, never went to med school, but I definitely had student loans and I definitely had a lot of stressors in my life when it came to finances early on in my career. It can be very, very difficult to show up to work to provide the best solutions, in this case, healthcare, which is incredibly important, when you are feeling extreme levels of financial stress. The Employer Financial Wellbeing Survey from 2023 that we cite here shows 60% of individuals said that financial stress was impacting their job performance negatively. And then on top of that, Gen Z and millennial employees in particular, which we all know are becoming a larger and larger segment of the workforce, are finding financial benefits to not really be a niche additional benefit like it used to be. They're seeing it more so as a must-have and a key differentiator for their employers. So a couple of stats there. 72% of millennials and Gen Z workers, according to Fast Company, would prioritize working for an employer that offers some sort of student loan benefit over one that does not. So that's almost 3 out of 4. And 86% of employees, according to SHRM, between the ages of 22 and 33, would commit to a company for at least 5 years or more if that company helped with their student loans and student loan repayment. So as you can see, as boomers are boomers are retiring, as Gen X is moving towards the later part of their career, as millennials are and have been the largest generation ever, and as Gen Z is becoming a larger and larger segment of the workforce, these benefits are becoming more of a must-have to differentiate yourself in the marketplace rather than a nice-to-have. Jason, have you seen any of these topics come up in any of the conversations you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely seeing now, or the discussion around the statement, student loan benefits and education financing benefits are a must-have for this generation. I've seen that said multiple times, and so I also just would add color to the, the average medical school debt is a little over $200,000 across all medical schools. The osteopathic schools, which have grown dramatically in recent years, you guys probably know. I've worked with some schools where the average student loan debt was over $400,000. Like I won't name some of the schools, but $440,000 was the average of the consultations we were doing for one program. And it's not uncommon to see $500,000 even from the Caribbean medical school. So those folks are going to would likely be, more in need of student loan benefits, particularly those that can hit that monthly payment or offer forgiveness.
Right. Yeah, and at $400,000, we're looking at the average U.S. home coming out of school, in debt.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's not even half at that point.
Yeah.
So topics we'll cover. We'll go through basically these 5 points. We'll start with some of the basics and then go into some of the more newer and nuanced and more creative options in the marketplace. And then we'll also wrap up with something that isn't necessarily pertaining to everybody, which is public student loan forgiveness. But it does highly impact those that are watching that are in the nonprofit space, et cetera. So let's walk through some of the initial ones. So the one kind of bread and butter benefit that's been around forever has been tuition reimbursement. And tuition reimbursement has been around since, I believe, the early 70s or early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And interestingly enough, it's been $5,250 a year since then. It hasn't changed, which hopefully will be something that is tackled by Congress sooner than later. But through Section 127, you as the employer can make tax-free contributions by reimbursing employees who are specifically participating or specifically getting educated, further education within something that is pertaining to their job. So whether they're going back and getting their master's degree or doctor's degree or some additional classes, et cetera, you can make those contributions to them up to $5,250, and it's tax-free to you and tax-free to the employee. Again, this has been very much so the bread and butter of the benefit space when it comes to education benefits. As you can see below at the bottom, according to SHRM, 48% of employers are offering some sort of tuition reimbursement, and that's 48% of all employers. So that accounts for hospitals, and that also accounts for trade-heavy jobs like factories and such, where the employees are probably not in some sort of continuous education. So needless to say, the number of employers that are actually offering this within the ecosystem of employees that are going to continuing education is actually probably significantly higher than 48%. And one of the things that we've been helping a lot in that space is HR teams. It's more of just a burden to run the tuition reimbursement program. They'll make it manual. They'll confirm the grades manually, etc. And that's one of the pieces where we at SavvyFi have been able to come in and offload that burden off of HR and take care of the entire process. Basically, create a decision tree, figure out, hey, who qualifies for what, when they fill out the application, they complete everything, we verify everything, and then the employer just reimburses on the back end.
Hey, Javi, question. Would it be safe to say, so the 5250 limit with a tax benefit has existed like for decades right now, but the education financing benefits up until recently were kind of limited to that. Is that correct? I think we might have lost Javi for a second here. Andrew, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jason, I can hear you, but Javi, you're slowing down.
Yeah, you slowed down there for a moment.
Am I back? Am I back to normal?
Yeah, you lost only about 30 seconds.
Okay.
It might be helpful to kill the camera if there's a capacity issue.
Thanks. I'll kill my camera.
Yeah.
All right, is my camera gone?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll just start over here. So student loan repayment made easy. Basically, under Section 127, you can do the tuition reimbursement piece, but you can also contribute to employees' student loans via payments that are tax-free to you as an organization and tax-free to the employee themselves. They can be integrated with payroll, other services. There's no administrative burden. We can take care of that entire process for your organization. We have the employees link their student loans to our platform. We have a direct API with the different servicers, and then we just move the money directly to the servicers. No need for checks being sent out to Nelnet or Mohila or whoever it may be. Some of the interesting ways that we have been utilized by some of our clients in this space is taking sign-on bonuses, in particular for hard-to-fill positions. Think practitioners in rural healthcare, as an example. Taking those sign-on bonuses and tying those sign-on bonuses to student loan contributions, investing them out over a certain period of time. We have also been utilized as retention bonuses, and in some of the other healthcare fields for billable hours. So basically, the employer will set aside X amount of dollars within a bucket of money for their employees, and then as those employees hit certain billable hour thresholds, certain monies will be released that will then be sent to their student loans to make the payment on their behalf. Very, very popular, very, very powerful. It just offers a different way to impact that employee. Jason, what were you going to say?
Well, just the 5% of employers are offering this today. There's room here, and competitively, I think, to participate in this space, particularly if you're for-profit.
Yeah, if you're for-profit, and SHRM actually expects that 5% to grow to 16% by 2026. So that's about 134% increase year over year. So it is becoming something that is becoming more and more important. And the conversations that I'm having is that I'm finding employers are coming to us because employees are coming to them asking for it. So it's a very grassroots movement in that sense that is quite frankly taking hold in those conversations.
Cool.
Sorry, I keep forgetting that on go to webinar you have to actually click the screen over to the next slide. Another very creative, very useful way of impacting employees is, one of the questions we get is, well, what if my employees aren't going to school anymore or getting any continuous education and they don't have any debt? Am I discriminating? Am I, leaving money on the table for them? What's going on there? So Jason, what's really interesting about this option, which is saving for college via 529 plans and the flexibility that creates, is it allows for everybody to have some sort of equitable opportunity to get some of this money that their employers are willing to offer them. So a little bit about 529. So we at SavvyFi have a direct integration with My 529. It's an API that's built into the platform. So employees can very quickly originate a 529 college savings plan. And employers, just like the student loans, can very quickly and very effectively contribute to 529 plans. A little bit about what's changed with 529 plans in the last several years due to some legislation passed. So historically, they have been only for college savings. So historically, you've only been able to use the money that you save and that grows on college tuition, books, living expenses, etc. Think just traditional college. However, since 2019, it's expanded to also include apprenticeships, vocational schooling, K through 12. You can use it for private school or maybe if there's a tuition charter or Montessori school or something along those lines. And now with Secure 2.0, which went into effect last year, you can also roll over any unused funds into a Roth IRA, whether that's for yourself or for your child or niece, nephew, grandchild, etc. You can do that up to $35,000. And that's pretty cool. Jason, I don't know about you, but I would have loved to have graduated from college and had, 35 grand set aside in retirement for me. I'm sure we've all seen the different charts of the impact saving early can have on your retirement number.
I mean, also what's happening with the new administration right now, the capacity at the Department of Education, the potential privatization of certain components of student loan debt. Like, this is a hedge against these types of, ultimately risks.
Right. Well, and we've seen it. When we look at some of these numbers, we've seen employers do as little as $50 per month per qualified employee that they're setting aside for, whether it's student loans or 529s or anything along those lines. And one of the biggest misconceptions that I see when speaking about 529s is, let's say your kid or grandkid or niece, nephew, godchild, whoever is just brilliant and they get a full ride, or maybe they're a great athlete and they get a full ride. The money doesn't disappear. I can't tell you how many times I hear that. The money's still there, and you always have access to the money that has been contributed into the account with no penalty and no taxes. Again, now you get to roll it over into an IRA, or you get to move it to another family member or yourself, or you can just pull all the money out and yeah, you'd have to pay taxes on the interest that has grown, but that's money that's grown within that account, not money that you put in. So as well, you can always open up an account for yourself, even if you don't have a specific child or family member in mind yet. Do we have any questions about anything that we've talked about? Has anybody implemented any of these strategies and seen any success, or have employees been asking for anything? I don't know if there's anything popping up, Andrew, in the chat.
Yeah, no questions yet. There was a question earlier about an annual limit, but it's been answered already, so nothing so far.
Okay. I'll go to the next one then.
Great.
So the elephant in the room over the last year in every conversation that I've had is Secure 2.0's student loan retirement plan matching. Very interesting conversations on this topic, simply due to the fact that after it went into effect, nobody knew how to actually implement it, and we figured that out over the last year. So it's been very exciting to actually be able to offer that to the marketplace. So long story short, Secure 2.0, with it going into effect January of last year, employers historically, when it comes to retirement accounts, have only been able, unless it's a safe harbor, have only been able to contribute to a 401k or 403b retirement plan if the employee is making a contribution into that plan. So think about it like I'm sure most of us on here have. Maybe I'm putting in 6%, my company's putting in 6 or 3, or maybe it's a flat match for $200 a month, whatever it may be. That's what you've been traditionally able to do. And if I don't contribute to my 401k plan, my employer is not contributing anything on my behalf. Well, what has been, quite frankly, a hot topic in Congress over the last several years is that there's a large segment of the employee population that, due to the fact that they don't have the cash flow to contribute to the retirement plans, they're missing out on the contribution piece from their employer. And a large portion of why employees aren't having the cash flow is because they're having to make these student loan payments. Now, make yourself 25, 28, 30, whatever age. Retirement seems like this abstract concept that's 30, 35 years away. The student loan statement I get every single month, that has a due date, 15 days from now that I have to pay every single month, or my credit is ruined. So which one takes priority? Of course, it's the student loans. And what that has created is it has created a generation of employees who are not only behind from day one once they graduate because of all the debt that they've accumulated, but then they're also behind and having to play catch up perpetually for saving for retirement. And kind of how I alluded earlier to having $529 when they're rolled over into an IRA, what an advantage that would be. If you start saving later, it's a massive disadvantage, and it takes several dollars to make up for every dollar you would have saved earlier. So now with Secure 2.0, what you're able to do is you're able to contribute a matching portion of a plan to an employee's retirement plan as long as they're making a qualified student loan payment. And that portion is carved out, it passes discrimination testing, you are good to go. We at SavvyFi are able to facilitate that transaction by verifying that the student loans exist, by verifying that the student loan payments are being made, and then working with either your TPA or your record keeper, whoever that may be, to reconcile at the end of the year what contributions need to be made into that employee's retirement account. So I'll stop right here because typically we have quite a few questions here. This is a brand new offering, just industry-wide. But quite frankly, I've been at SHRM regional meetings where there was an entire room dedicated just to Secure 2.0 and this specific offering.
Yeah, Yavi, while we wait for questions, just to add, so when in our world, when we're talking about Secure 2.0, this student loan retirement match seems to be something that we've been talking about. But in the meetings that I've had one-on-one with folks, they're learning about this in the moment. So there might be some folks here that are just learning that this is available now. Whether someone does this internally or they outsource it to a resource that can verify the payments and work with the record keeper and all of that, would it be fair to say that this is something that's generally already budgeted for, given the that there's a certain percentage of retirement match that's done anyway?
Yeah, I mean,
so kind of low cost, low lift.
Yeah, low cost, low lift. Everything we've talked about in today is incredibly low lift. I mean, to put it into perspective, there's a CNBC article that spoke on 1 in 3 health system employees don't contribute to their retirement plans, specifically due to student debt. Right. So you're dealing with a workforce that wants to contribute, is not able to, and an organization that already has money budgeted and set aside for the contributions to those retirement plans. So the money's already there. This is just giving another avenue for that money to actually be triggered to be put into the retirement plans.
Yeah, it's strange to me that only 2% of employers are doing it. It has to be lack of awareness more than anything else. Yeah,
lack of awareness and lack of most record keepers and TPAs at this point have not known how to validate those student loans, which is where we come in play. So that's we've been able to solve that problem for
there's some moving parts.
Right. Andrew, any questions?
Yeah, no questions at the moment.
All right. So how SavvyFi comes into the equation in regards to everything we talked about today is we bundle all services together for every single one of our clients. So whether it's student loan repayments via Section 127, whether it's 529 origination or contribution, whether it's tuition reimbursement, or whether it's a Secure 2.0 student loan retirement plan match, we make it so that every single one of our clients has access to all of these tools that they can implement. Now, sometimes clients tell us like, hey, we don't have capacity to implement 529 and student loan right now. We would like to just start with student loan and we'll worry about 529 later. That's totally fine. We let them know there's no upcharge on the back end for that. We'll turn it on when you're ready. And because all of it goes through one specific platform and works through the SavvyFi APIs, everything from employer contributions to bonuses and incentives are super easy and hassle-free for HR. And then for the employees, you've got tools such as gifting links. I actually used a bunch of gifting links for my daughter's birthday about a month ago. Told everybody, hey, you're going to bring our gift. You don't have to bring our gift, but if you're going to bring our gift, please don't bring more dolls into my house that will terrorize my living room floor. Please contribute to our 529. And people took me up on that, and then they still brought the gifts that are terrorizing my living room floor. So that they are there. Don't you worry. We've got cashback rewards that are tied to going to different restaurants, different stores, etc., where the money directly goes towards your student loan or 529. Which is a very, very easy, simple ecosystem within which to exist in that is low budget, low friction, easy use, and low workload for HR. So here I will pass it off to Jason to give an update on PSLF and where things stand today.
All right. Thanks, Javi. Great job. It's the Secure 2.0, 127, 529 plans, all these numbers are uniquely creating great opportunities for education financing benefits. It's awesome. I want to talk just about the struggle that your recruits and your staff are facing when they have outstanding student loan debt. Now, with my history working with Practice Match, my guess is in this audience about a little more than half of you are staff recruiters or in HR at nonprofit hospitals or health systems. And then the remainder work in some sort of for-profit capacity. And so I'm going to focus on public service loan forgiveness and the 501c3 employers. It is helpful to note that if you are not one of those, it is these other benefits that we talked about earlier that probably would be more appropriate in moving the needle for a recruit. But also, as a for-profit, understand that you're competing against nonprofit organizations who get this sort of quote-unquote federal subsidy to their compensation package when PSLF is maximized and the average savings for a physician is in many cases over $200,000. I'm not going to cover the I welcome your questions, and I'd love to hear some feedback or stories from you guys to the extent you're willing to share. But I'm not going to cover the requirements of PSLF. It's existed since 2007. I think at this point, most understand that if you work 10 years in a qualifying organization and you're in a qualifying repayment plan, which is typically one that's based on your income, at the end of 10 years of qualifying full-time employment, you can have your outstanding loans forgiven tax-free. And so PSLF candidates are incented to navigate these income-driven repayment plans to maximize the amount that's going to be forgiven at that 10-year mark. Now, there's been a lot of discussion in the media around, is PSLF going to survive the Trump administration? And there are some things that are being tightened, whereas Biden's administration had some retroactive consideration to PSLF that now no longer exists. And the Trump administration, actually federal courts, blocked the most recent and most generous income-driven repayment plan. So I want to give you guys just a little bit of an update there. And also I welcome your questions on, are you discussing this as a nonprofit with your recruits? Some of these folks that we talked about, they have $400,000 and $500,000 of student loan debt. They are probably looking for a nonprofit job after they transition to practice because they're pursuing PSLF. And so your knowledge of that, I think you'd at least want to know that. The savings is greater for those who have higher levels of debt because the forgiveness at 10 years is unlimited and it's tax-free. So when we mention PSLF, that's public service loan forgiveness. It's been around now for 18 years. There is bipartisan support and congressional action that created this program in 2007, as well as the base level and most popular for a long time income-driven repayment plan, which is called income-based repayment. And so most borrowers, when they started pursuing PSLF, were in income-based repayment. Now, when the CARES Act was enacted in March of 2020, that basically paused everyone's payments on student loans and also interest accruing, and that borrowers weren't required to go back into repayment until late October of 2023. So that March of 20, it says 22 there, but it's March of 2020 is when the CARES Act took effect and paused payments on student loans. That 3.5-year period retroactively, whether someone worked in residency or fellowship, which is usually PSLF qualified, teaching hospitals qualify, or they were working in a nonprofit environment, hospital, they were a hospitalist, working full-time as a physician, they had 0 student loan payment. That whole 3.5 years counts towards public service loan forgiveness if that employment is certified. So that essentially moves up the loan forgiveness opportunity, like the rising tide lifts all boats, if you will, when it comes to PSLF. So right now, the issues that borrowers are facing are around the income-driven repayment plans and what repayment plans will be available once this most recent generous program called SAVE, Saving on a Valuable Education, is formally blocked, and we do expect it to be eliminated. What repayment plans will exist is still being decided by courts. Income-based repayment must remain available as it was enacted by Congress, and there's bipartisan support for both PSLF in its original form as well as income-based repayment. So borrowers are facing a waiting period right now. Those who have 8 or 9 years done towards PSLF are waiting to figure out which repayment plan will get them to their 10-year forgiveness. And those who are in the SAVE forbearance will have an opportunity to buy back time while that's been paused over the last 6 or 7 months. So if you have a recruit coming to you that's, say, coming from transitioning to practice, it's likely that they paid very little on their student loans over the course of their training. At least it should have been that way. And they've already got 4 or more years done towards PSLF. By making income-based plan, income-driven loan repayment payments, they can maximize PSLF while they stay with you. And if you help them do that, that will likely move the needle in terms of recruiting and retention versus those who have borrowers fend for themselves. I want to walk through a case study here, but first, it looks like a couple questions popped up. There are no PSLF questions, I think. I can't answer, so fire away.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl had a bunch of questions.
Okay.
As it relates to the student loan repayment through the candidate's commencement or retention bonus, are the loan payments taxable just like commencement and retention bonuses themselves?
Good question. As Yavi mentioned, and Yavi, I invite you to dive in here. If you're going to reallocate, like for example, I've worked with hospitals before that offer $20,000 a year of loan repayment, or maybe that's a sign-on bonus, or it's $20,000 a year of loan repayment for 5 years, which totals $100,000 of loan forgiveness. That has been historically taxable. If you qualify for, say, National Health Service Corps, a state repayment plan, those can be not taxable, and they're also delivered or repaid in after those years of service. All of that can work in conjunction with PSLF. I'll actually explain that in my next slide. But those outside of Section 127, and this includes tuition reimbursement, anything above 5250, or if you're discriminating in favor of highly compensated employees, it's going to be not taxable. I have something else to add to that, but Yavi, I just want to get your sign off on that, or any additional context.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Within the context of Section 127, if you stay within that 5250 and you just have clearly defined rules in your Section 127 documents. Within that 5250, those will be tax-free dollars to the employer and to the employee.
Now, I have one other thing to add to that. Thanks, Yavi, is that there's a newer space being carved out right now through Section 108F of the IRS code, which allows for loan forgiveness through nonprofit organizations, loan repayment that is ultimately tax-free. This is done through what's called an LRAP program. I'm not going to get into the details of it. You would have to set up your own LRAP plan, which you could then discriminate in favor of highly compensated employees. If you were giving monthly student loan repayment, or you were giving annual student loan repayment, like the 100K over 5 years I mentioned, if that was delivered to select, for example, probably to recruit folks in more difficult to fill roles, through the 108F plan, you could make those payments not taxable. This is a space that law schools have used for a long time, since really the 1980s. National Health Service Corps and some of your state-based repayment plans also access 108F. There are a few providers now that are creating 108F plans for employers, and that's something we can help facilitate if you want to go deeper in that discussion and you're already giving either sign-on bonuses that people want to allocate to debt, or you're doing loan repayment that borrowers often, I don't want to say irresponsibly, because when you're paying down debt, that's a responsible thing to do. But if you're overlapping with public service loan forgiveness, you are ultimately you're taking money out of the borrower's you're taking money out of the borrower's paychecks. If there's overlap and they can save that money, we'd rather them keep it. So if you make a lump sum payment and then you still make your income-driven payments for a year, and those are on top of each other, that was up to $20,000 they could have saved. So we always want to avoid that overlap where possible. So you could combine an LRAP, loan repayment plan, with PSLF and commit to a recruit. You will never make a student loan payment again if you come work here. And that, without tax liability, can be done through 108F.
Do we have
Hope I didn't get too technical for you guys there.
Yeah. Do we have any additional questions, Andrew, on that?
Yeah, we did, and I believe you might have mentioned it, so I apologize. But is there a tax benefit by spreading them out and paying the student debt owner directly, and as well as does SavvyFi manage the tax withholdings themselves?
Let me give that one to you, Yavi.
Yeah. Can you repeat that question? I'm having a hard time following. What is there a benefit to paying the employee directly?
So I think it is correlated with the other question that Carl asked. Is there a tax benefit by spreading them out and paying the student debt owner directly?
My understanding is if you paid the student debt owner directly for them to make payments, it would. I don't believe Section 127. I can double check on this, but I don't believe that would qualify under Section 127. I believe for it to qualify under Section 127, it would be a direct payment to the loan servicer. But I can get if they would like to share their email, I can get that answer for them on the back end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if we're talking about 108F, I presume this question was related to 127. With 108F, it is done through a non-profit organization. It's actually technically considered a refinance, so the answer would be no on the 108F side. Great. Yavi, you want to jump over to the next slide? I just want to do a quick case study here so you guys know. Again, if you're for-profit, what exists out there that you're competing ultimately against, and then for PSLF employers, the value of this, particularly as earlier career graduates tend to have the higher levels of student loan debt. Quick case study here. After 4 years of training, a doctor's transitioning to practice. So maybe you're trying to keep them in your already existing hospital system from residency or fellowship. Maybe this is someone that's transitioning to practice and you're recruiting them to come come join you. And they have $300,000 of student loan debt. You're offering them as a nonprofit a salary of $200K. The for-profit salary offer down the street is $225K a year. We're assuming that after these 4 years of training, this doctor has completed 4 years of required time towards public service loan forgiveness. So they would need to work for a nonprofit full-time for the next 6 years to maximize PSLF or to get PSLF. If they make income-driven repayment plan payments based on the programs that are available today, not counting SAVE, based on this income and a family size of 3, they will come out of pocket with their income-driven repayment plan payments about $78,000 over the next 6 years. And if they go work for the for-profit organization, and we assume that they're going to rapidly pay down their debt, say over 10 years, and they have $300K in debt at 6.5%, they're looking at coming out of pocket about $380,000. And so we can state that the difference in out-of-pocket payments to take the PSLF job versus the for-profit job is a savings out of pocket of over $300,000 for a borrower that has $300K. If they have less than that in student loan debt, that delta is going to be a little smaller. If they're one of these osteopathic school graduates with $440K, this can creep up over $400,000. These recruits are making career decisions based on the availability of this program. I've seen it all the time, and it's helpful for you guys to know that going in. Any questions?
No questions at the moment. I think you answered all of them so far.
Great.
Awesome. So what to do next? Organizationally, identify which interest and benefits you or the organization may have, or what you've been hearing from employees, if you've done any pulse surveys, or if you've had any grassroots inquiries, or maybe within your organization, within a talent acquisition team, there's just a common theme of why maybe you're losing out on some of the recruits that you would really like to get. You feel free to set up a call with us within the next couple of weeks. This QR code works and goes directly to a calendar link where you can schedule a meeting/demo, and we can talk through all the different creative compensation structures and plans that we can utilize, make them tax advantage, and make them incredibly strategic and on a very, very low to oftentimes cost to no cost or impact on the budget to the organization, as oftentimes it's already allocated. A couple things I know: Jason has a pickleball tournament or event this Sunday.
I do, yeah. For those of you that are attending ASHRA in Albuquerque next week, starting on Sunday, I'm putting together a little pickleball game on Sunday night. So you get, we'll try to send my contact information or we got a little registration link for this. I'll send that to you afterwards, Andrew. But if you're a pickleball player or you want to learn how to play pickleball and you're going to be in Albuquerque next week, let's link up and play some pickleball. I'd love to meet some of you and have a little fun while we're out there and keep my pickleball game polished selfishly.
Well, fun fact: I live in Nashville, but the first place I ever played pickleball was in Albuquerque. So it's full circle. Even though
that big court complex they have there, like 39 courts, that's where we're going to link up.
Oh, that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And then for everybody, we'll also include the link to this afterwards, but we're having a public service loan forgiveness webinar for a deeper dive on April 22nd. So we'll also include that. And then, Jason, do you want to talk about PSLF coaching or anything like that?
If you have recruits that are PSLF candidates, or if you're a PSLF qualified employer and you're recruiting someone that has a bunch of student loan debt, hopefully you're having that conversation so you can identify any ways to move the needle on winning that recruit. But if you want our help with one-on-one student loan coaching or support, reach out to me. We do this as well. It'd be a good intro into working with us and hopefully help you win the recruit.
Love that. Love that. Q&A. Any, I know we've asked for questions along the way, but have any other questions popped in or any other topics that are just top of mind?
No questions so far. There was a technical. Angela scanned the QR code, said Jason's calendar was currently unavailable. So there's that. But otherwise, we'll definitely shoot these questions over, and we can get them answered over email or a quick phone call after the webinar. Absolutely.
Andrew, I'm going to send you a link to my calendar, and then that the pickleball thing as well. And then you guys have an event coming up that you wanted us to make sure we talked about here. I don't know if Andrew, you want to talk about it, or you just want us to show the content here?
Yeah.
Yavi, if you go to the end.
Go for it.
The secret to getting more applicants. This is on Tuesday, April 15th. I believe this is a web-based presentation. Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah, it's one of our webinars from our sister company, NAS.
Cool. So I want to make sure you guys were aware of this as well. We've still got some people have started to fall off here, but hopefully we got this out to a good number of folks as well.
And we'll have Jason figure out why his calendar was showing as unavailable.
Yeah.
I just scanned it and sent it over to him, so I'm sure it's just a quick fix. So. And we'll follow up in the email as well with his link, but we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we had one more question roll in there. Holly said, what is available to ensure that candidates are participating in the correct student loans for PSLF?
What is the, I'm sorry, read that again, the process or the...
What is available to ensure that candidates are participating in the correct student loans for PSLF?
So there is a not mandatory, but we think it's a process that borrowers should go through annually, which is to certify their current employment. Once a year, they do it. So if there's 10 years required towards PSLF, borrowers can go into the federal student aid database, the PSLF specific portal for this, and they certify their employment. It's borrower initiated, and then someone on your team in HR certifies that this individual clinician says, I've worked here since March 2020, and I still currently work here, and my average hours per week are 35. Anything over 30 qualifies as full-time for PSLF. Then the Department of Education, they've actually been, as much as there's issues, the turnaround time for certifications is being done pretty quickly. So within a few days, as it's been lately, it used to take a while, the department will read back to you, in fact, did you have the right loans, or for the right loans that did qualify, you now have X number of payments. I do have to say that the process that's probably lacking here, and one of the reasons that I've had, I've worked with a lot of organizations to help maximize PSLF, is that most borrowers need to do an opportunity assessment. Ideally, this is what we did when they graduated medical school for so long. Do you have the right kinds of loans, or do they need to be consolidated or positioned for PSLF? Fortunately, most borrowers already have the right kinds of loans now. Direct federal student loans. It's any loan lent since July of 2010 on through today, where the Department of Education is still the lender. We'll see how much longer that exists under the new administration. But if they have direct student loans, they're PSLF eligible. Meeting the other two requirements is just about documentation, being an income-driven repayment plan, and working for the right kind of employer, which is hopefully that you are, if you are. Did that answer your question? Hopefully, happy to talk further about that if you'd like as well. I think the opportunity assessment is something that if it's not being done, the websites, the strategic part of PSLF is underserved by federal resources.
Absolutely, and Holly said thank you so much. So I believe that is the last of the questions that we have so far.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for everybody joining. We will follow up and we'll get Jason's calendar fixed on the QR link, but we'll also follow up with the registration for the pickleball tournament and the April 22nd PSLF webinar. And outside of that, obviously, any other questions you may have or anything else you'd like to dive into, we are more than available and would love to help.
And especially on the practice match side as well, this webinar was going to be recorded and will definitely be shared with everybody in attendance today. All questions, if you don't have them yet, we'll definitely get the ones answered shortly as well. Thank you
guys,
so much.
One last thing, Andrew, I'm going to ask you this off. It looks like some folks are dropping off. We want feedback when we do these types of sessions. We want them to be educational. We want them to know what resources are out there. And so if people want to hear more of one topic or like, please, I hope that you'll solicit feedback so that we can use that to evolve as things evolve.
Absolutely. We even have a survey code that we are, is in the post-webinar email that gets sent out. So trust me, anybody and everybody, if you have questions, concerns for Jason, if you want to see additional resources like this, please let us know. We're absolutely we want to help out as much as possible.
Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Hopefully I'll see you in Albuquerque if you're going to be there. Let's play.
Bye-bye.